Well, welcome everybody. Before we start the Q&A, I'd like to start the meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we all gather here this evening. So I'm sitting in Tenerife, which is home to the Turrbal, Yuggera and Jaggera people. And I'd like to pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Is there anybody sitting outside of the Turrbal, Jaggera, Yuggera people's areas where they'd like to pay respects to before we continue? Laura, can you? Yep.
Sorry, my mouse wasn't working. The Gubbi Gubbi people in the Moreton Bay region, which I think quite a lot of our staff are located. Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Anybody else? Oh, we're all good. Okay, well, thank you for that. Well, thanks everybody for attending. It's a nice, bright and sunny Monday evening at 5:30. I hope this time's all good for you. We're trying to juggle the times a little bit to make sure as many people can attend, but I do appreciate you all taking time to join us tonight. We're normally quite good and we'll stick to the hour so we don't take up too much of your family time, but we do want to make sure everybody's got the chance to chat if they need to. So the agenda that we sent out, and I'm going to look to the side of my screen, tonight we're going to talk about the casual conversion, so the process that we're going through with regards to transferring as many people as possible from casual employment to permanency. We're going to talk about the NDIS service delivery structure, and that's something we touched on last Q&A. We're going to give you a bit of an update on the infection control training. We're going to give you an update on Brevity. I'm sure most of you are aware of Brevity and you've been in contact with Sean so far, but Sean's going to give us an update on that this evening. And then we're going to talk about our new Eap Provider and the supports that you can access from there. If there's any questions that aren't that you've got that aren't related to those particular agenda items, could you flick them in a chat message to Leanne or just on the chat stream, and I'll try and keep up with them where we go. We did get a question around operational issue, just around medication training, and we won't touch on that in the Q&A because I suspect that's one that's more related to a specific policy. But what we can do is we can take that one offline and make sure if there's anything that we need to clarify, we'll do that in a separate forum. So that's the 5 areas we're going to talk about this evening. And if we're all good to go, I'll just kickstart with the casual conversion. So thank you to everybody who sent in their application for casual conversion. The intent of doing this was we sent out a staff survey, I think it was around about December 2019 and then again in January 2020, asking employees from Arafmi what they felt they valued the most and what would make them feel more secure in their employment. And the 2 main areas that came out of that was permanent employment and more access to training and development. And through the past 18 months, and I've been here, we've been trying really hard to work towards making that happen. And we've now got a workforce development plan which has supported the transition of approximately 70% of our NDIS workforce to permanent employment. And we sent out an expression of interest, I think, was it in January or was it just before Christmas? So there or thereabouts that time. Karen will correct me when Karen's going to jump in a minute with this one. Now we've sent out the expression, and I think we got a fairly healthy return of people coming back and saying yes, they want permanency and giving us an indication of days, times and hours. Now, I think we underestimated the mammoth task that would be in trying to match people's requirements to rosters and make sure that we had a commitment to that. So there's been a bit of a delay in getting back to people in terms of what exact hours will be, but we've done quite a lot of work in the back end to implement that. And Karen, I'm going to hand over to you, and Laura might be able to jump in as well, just to give the team a bit of an update on how many people applied, where we're at, and what might be next in the process. Is that okay for both of you to take that on?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of numbers, I'm going to be honest and say I thought we might get a few more. We probably had about 40 staff, which represents approximately a third of the team. So if anybody else is interested in applying, I'd really welcome your application. Just let me know and I can send the form to you again if you haven't got it. We are currently working through a process of assessing everybody's applications, and there's quite a bit, as Irene said, quite a bit going on. So it's we're juggling everything. We're hoping to finish the initial assessment this week and actually move within the probably next week and the week after to actually start looking at how we can roster this. Laura, anything I've missed?
I think the only thing I wanted to touch on is I know when talking with a staff member recently, they were of the understanding that they weren't eligible to apply for permanency. So I think maybe we could provide a little bit more clarity around that. So we did open it up to all staff. We didn't actually have any prerequisites on that. So I know traditionally it might be after 12 months, but we kind of had it open for anyone who was interested in permanency. So anyone that was thinking that maybe they haven't been with us for a long enough time to be eligible for permanency, please get in touch and have a conversation with us.
Yes, no, that's correct, because legislation usually stipulates after 12 months, but we're certainly open to it now. And I guess I should also point out that because we are trying to move to a more permanent workforce, we've got an ad out at the moment for looking for support workers, and we're a bit silent on whether it's a casual or a permanent role. But from here on in, we will be advertising permanent as well as casual positions from word go. So if anyone is interested, please have a chat to either myself or Laura, Gary, Kerry, Irene, any of us.
And thanks, Karen and Laura. I think some of the areas that people talked about, and we have had employees before not want to move from casual because of the 20%, 25% decrease that they feel they would have on their hourly rate. But we did want to stress, and this is not my view is that whoever wants permanency, we should try and make that happen. I want you all to be safe and secure and paying the rent or paying your mortgage or getting car loans or just being comfortable about some security with the future. So that's my main drive. It's certainly not from an operational perspective. We want what's best for you. But we did have some feedback last year when we were talking to people about transitioning around the drop in the 25% rate, but wanted to remind people that around salary sacrifice, that can significantly increase your take-home pay as well. We don't actually have a lot of employees at the moment who take up salary sacrifice. So I think what we'll do is we'll arrange for an information session for everybody to tap into. So if people are worried about that, the drop in the hourly rate, I do want to reassure you that it does give you some security around sick leave, annual leave, like those areas, but there is options for salary sacrifice as well that increases your take-home pay. Gary or Kerry, did you want to add anything else to that before I open this up to some questions and chat?
No, I'm okay.
Cool. Thanks, Gary.
I think you've covered everything, Irene and Karen. Laura?
Cool. Thanks, Kerry. So we'll open that one up to any questions. Does anybody have any comments or questions? And we did get a comment around the timeliness about getting back to people, and I completely take that on board. It was something we thought would be a relatively quick turnaround, but we're actually quite a lean organisation for the size of us. We've got quite a small amount of overhead management and staff, and we've had multiple things going on that we've had to balance, and I think the learning for us there is about being a little bit more conservative with our time frames and getting back to people with those things. So I do take that on, that the timing of it's been a bit rubbish. But any other comments, feedback, questions that anybody wants to ask about the conversion to permanency? Cool. I will take your silence as no objections. All right. Thank you for everybody for that. If there are any thoughts around shifting, or even people who've been relatively new with us, or people who weren't sure about how it would financially impact them, please come back and let us know if you're wavering over it. What we will do is we'll set up a process now for everybody who's asked for permanency to look at the rosters and how we're going to make that work. And it's likely that we'll probably put out another expression of interest in between 3 to 6 months to let those rosters embed and see what that looks like. So it's absolutely not a done deal that you can't apply now. Like, if you're with us for over 12 months, you have the right to ask for that anyway. But it's something we wanted to try and do in a bit of a bulk to work out our rosters. But yeah, don't be scared to put your hand up and ask if you change your mind. Okay, so moving on from that, we're going to talk about the changes to NDIS service delivery structure. And I'm going to start this segment with an apology. At the last Q&A, I was under the impression that we'd spoken to everybody about the changes in admin and the senior support worker function, and I take absolute full responsibility that wasn't as clear as it could have been, and we did miss some people out when we were going through the conversation piece. So I'm really sorry. That I'm absolutely sure it probably caused a few employees distress and discomfort and fear about their ongoing employment. So I take full responsibility for that and absolutely apologise. I think we've talked to the people who were impacted by that, and I think everyone that we've spoken to, very safe and secure in their roles. There hasn't been a significant shift in that, but I do recognise that would have caused some distress. So I suppose just as an explanation, there were so many things to think about in the workforce transition that we thought we'd got everything ticked off, and that we'd put everything in place around what we needed to do, who we needed to speak to, and we dropped the ball a little bit. So that's on me, but as a team, we'll make sure that doesn't happen again in the future. And for those who were impacted, thanks for your understanding. I did have the opportunity to talk to a few people in January, February who were impacted by that, and I really appreciate your generosity and forgiveness at working through that with us. So what we'll do now is Leanne, if you're able to put the new org structure up. It's slightly different from the one that we'd talked about before, and I'll just give you a very brief overview of this, and then I'll let Laura talk through some of the practicalities of it. We're not going to go through it in a significant amount of detail tonight, but it's just to give you an overview of what things look like. So we talked before about moving some of the admin and senior support worker functions around. And again, actually, Laura, I might just flick to you to go over it, if that's okay. Now, are you able to talk through the rationale between for changing the senior support worker title to client care coordinator, the implementation of senior client care coordinator, or whatever we're going to call that role that we might have changed already, and a little bit about the admin and rostering team? Are you cool to do that?
I can try my best.
I'll jump in if there's anything. I think you might just be able to articulate it a bit better than I can.
Yeah. So I think our thought process behind having the title of client care coordinator rather than senior support worker is because we wanted them in kind of like a mentorship role for staff, but also that first point of call for clients attached to that site. So we felt that it was more of a fitting name. It wasn't strictly support work. So we felt it was better fitting. So with the senior client care coordinator, which I'll admit I'm not a fan of that title, we're throwing a few suggestions around. So this was a role that we did have to come up with just to cover a few functions that had suddenly become, I guess, vacant. So I'm not sure if everyone is aware, but our client intake officer has moved on from Arafmi, Jen Spence-Whaley. So she'd been with Arafmi for 7 years. So I really want to recognise all the efforts she's put into the several roles that she's been in with Arafmi, so definitely wishing her well. But it did leave us without anyone in that intake space. So we will have a senior client care coordinator that will be doing some of the functions that the client care coordinator does, but also half of their responsibility will be managing the intakes for that region. Now, we've also introduced the admin and rostering team. So currently that all sits with each site. So that team will actually become centralised. They will be servicing the whole of Arafmi, while each of the people that will be in those roles are located in different areas. They won't just be servicing that area. So that will give us a little bit more flexibility, hopefully with longer period of time. So it might be that they stagger their starts and finishes so that we can have that support for support workers, but also our clients to be able to get in touch with someone in regards to their support and changing their shift hours, or for our support workers to contact if they're not able to attend work. We will be appointing a team leader that will be coordinating that team as well.
Thanks, Laura. And I think we talked last time at the Q&A around the intent of this, and what we knew from before was that there were a lot of areas where the service coordinators and admin were really holding up those functions, but it was very siloed into specific areas. And we want to move away from it being very specific, because it doesn't allow for the organisation operate as a whole and have consistent practices. Each site that was set up, and all of the sites have been set up incredibly well, but they've been set up differently dependent on the people who set them up. And I think we've got some really good learnings from each site that we can combine to make it a much better service as a whole. The intent of the centralisation or rostering and admin, again, was to make sure that we're covering the whole of the organisation rather than just individual bits. And I think that makes us stronger as a team, but it also makes us more resilient when people need to take leave or want to look at other areas in their employment that they want to investigate or take some time out to do training on, which we're really supportive of. It just means that we have a more robust team when things move. You'll notice that we've got the recovery coach position there as well. So we mentioned this last time that Jade Thornburn is going to take on the development of recovery coach. So Jade's very kindly still with the north side at the moment until we can transition that effectively. But we're really excited about Jade working in that space and developing that role. We're really hopeful that that role will take on board and more positions will be created from that. And we're giving Jade her full backing to do what she can to make it work. So that's the NDIS team. So you'll see that it's slightly more condensed. If you look at it quite deeply, we did have some really robust discussions around the structure, and we were like, is it really any different to what it looked like before? But we're really comfortable that we've put in additional layers of support, so that support workers in particular have got more people to talk to, more people to have for coaching and mentoring and feedback. And we think we'll have a wider on-call system as well, because some of the admin will end up doing the rostering on call, and we'll have senior managers in space for those more emergency situations. So you'll have a slightly different tier of on call, which is it means more people on call less times over the course of the year, which we're hoping will be less fatiguing for people too. The other areas of the organisational chart, and I'll just go over briefly, because people do ask why support coordination's under a separate area from NDIS. Now, we feel quite strongly about the support coordination team having a separate area of accountability in terms of that operational space. So Pooji, our Chief Operating Officer, will oversee that. Now, that doesn't mean they won't get support from the NDIS team or myself in terms of practice, but we do want to have a very clear separated governance around that, just so that we're not doing things like referring to ourselves or trying to find a way of cross referrals amongst Arafmi that we're making more business from. We absolutely want to avoid that, and I think that's probably the most ethical way we can manage that. And you'll notice in the human resources, we've got HR team leader, which is Karen, and our new HR business partner will start at the just after Easter at the beginning of April, and she'll be working fairly quickly to establish our onboarding and recruitment procedure and our learning and development team, so that all of the training that you've asked for and that I've been banging on about for over a year, we'll start to be putting that in place as soon as we can. So there's some really exciting things on the horizon. So does anybody have any questions about the structure? In fact, the start date for it, which is a good question that we've all been asking ourselves, we're aiming to have this in place for I think the second week in April when Brevity is fully implemented. However, if Brevity is not fully implemented, we'll still try and have all the positions in place with the view of the centralisation of rostering, and the admin team will start that centralised process when Brevity is up and running. And Sean will talk us through a little bit more about that in the section after next. So I'll open that one up to, does anybody have any questions about the org chart, any feedback, any thoughts? Thanks, Dwayne. So Dwayne's asking, when's it rolling out in Ipswich? Is that for Brevity, Dwayne, or for the org chart? Both, I think. So Brevity, I'll get Sean to go over in his section. And same, so when we're planning for it to be the start of April for all of the positions. We do know who the senior client care coordinator is for that region, and they'll be implemented hopefully within the next couple of weeks. It is a current employee, and we do have the appointments confirmed for that area, so that should be sooner rather than later. But including the whole administration team, I think we've got appointed, plus all of the care coordination positions. So for Ipswich, Toowoomba, Mount Gravatt, Brisbane South, the appointment should be in place within the next couple of weeks. But again, the centralisation of what they're doing, there's probably going to be a little bit of a crossover until Brevity is implemented throughout the whole organisation. But again, Sean will touch base with you on that time-wise. Thanks, Dwayne, good question. Any other questions on the NDIS transition or the org chart? Happy to take anything that people want to know.
I don't have a question on that, but I do have it in relation to the NDIS. When our clients get billed, it's 1 on 4 in the house. What happens when we have 1 on 5 clients in the house? Because if we're going to have 5 clients, does that mean that we are billing them incorrectly? And basically, I just love some clarification around that, just so I know what is happening.
So there's a couple of different answers to that, Christy. But what it says, we've talked about the 1 on 5 in particular sites, and when there is 1 on 5, we put additional employees in, and we make sure that the ratios we build are accurate according to what we can. I can't talk about specific individuals, so there probably is some specific situations that might be helpful around clarification. But when we implement the rostering team on a centralised basis, the ops manager and the regional managers will be working really closely with the rostering team leader to make sure that the billing's appropriate. But I'm aware of some scenarios where there's been 5 people STA, but we don't bill incrementally higher. We generally put other employees in and bill accordingly. Does that kind of answer your question without me going into any specifics?
Yeah, no, of course not. Yeah, I mean, I guess, looking from a manager's point of view, it's quite difficult because you have cancellations and you also have clients booking in that day. So yeah, kind of, like, it's not always going to be perfect in implementing it, but just, I guess, I just needed, I guess, some clarification around just the basics, the fundamentals of what we're doing. And that,
yeah. No, that's fair, and it's a good question. What I would say is that we've definitely made mistakes before with billing where we've been the first to put our hands up and give money back, and in scenarios where we've probably not provided the service that we felt we could. I think we're a very ethical organisation, and making sure that if we've made mistakes or we've done something we shouldn't, we've gone back and we've reversed it. And I have to say it was probably one of the first conversations I had with Laura when I started at Arafmi was around billing and it maybe not being quite right, and us looking at it and going that we need to shift this and give it back. So I'm fairly confident that what we're doing is ethical, but if there are any issues around mistakes, completely open to getting feedback about those and reversing them if we have actually done something wrong. But I think we've got the ratios pretty covered, and if there's a way we can share that information across the organisation without naming names or giving too much detail away about particular clients, I'll have a think about how we do that, even just how we explain that to clients who might be in a 5-on-1 situation from time to time.
no worries. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, thanks for asking. So does anybody else have any other questions around the org chart or the transition to this area in particular around NDIS? Cool. What I might do then is I might just, you'll notice with the carer support team, we do have a service delivery manager in place. And I did mention Alex previously in my last Q&A. I'm getting some feedback there. I think someone's asking a question. What I might do, I think somebody's just asked a question there, but I'm getting quite a bit of feedback. Leanne, are you okay to put that mic on mute? And if the person who's asking can type that chat for me, if you've got something specific to ask, shove it in the chat function and I'll get to it in a second, if that's okay. It was just coming through with a lot of feedback. So just going back to, I'll introduce Alex Tyson to the team. Alex, I don't think your camera's working, is it, Alex?
No, but that's probably a good thing from everyone else's point of view. So.
Alex, can I just ask you, I'm kind of putting you on the spot, can I just ask you to say a couple of sentences about how wonderful Arafmi's been since you've started 5 weeks ago, I think it was. Are you okay to just say a few words?
It's great to be a part of the team. I did work with Arafmi last year when I was with another organisation. We were doing a lot of carer support, so it's good to actually be here full time, and we've got some fantastic staff, and I'm just looking forward to meeting people face to face in the coming months and looking at how we can work together to make sure carers are really well supported. So thank you.
Cool. No, thanks, Alex, and welcome on board. Alex was working with another organisation where Arafmi have partnered to look at young carer research and really, really exciting project. So it was fantastic working with her on that, and great to have her on board with the Arafmi team now. I'm sure there'll be people in the Ipswich area that might recognise Alex. She had quite a long history of service delivery in that area. So. But nice to have you on board.
Thank you.
So we've got a question. Can we please have the names of the triple Cs? What we're going to do, we don't have all of the positions finalised yet. So there's 1 or 2 positions, I think 2 positions that we haven't got 100% finalised. So I'm not going to name them out in this forum at the moment, but as soon as we've got those finalised, we'll send out an all staff email with an updated org chart of who people are and what their roles are. So thank you for the question, Kylie, but we won't put that out fully tonight if that's okay. What I would say is that anybody who has applied has been they're either aware of the position that they have, or if they've not been offered the position. But we've just got I think two positions just to finalise before we announce that. Any other questions from the team before we move on? Cool. Okay, Leanne, if you're happy to take the org chart back down, and then I might hand over to our wonderful Karen Gordon, HR team leader, to talk about infection control.
Thanks, boss. A big thank you to everybody who has already enrolled in the infection control training. It's been seems to be really well received. I hope everyone's enjoying the training and having a bit of fun with it. If anybody hasn't enrolled and still wants to, can you contact me ASAP, because we do have a cut-off because everything needs to be completed within a fairly tight time frame. So please let me know. I have emailed a couple of people today just to chase up some information where I think the people from ARC training have tried to contact some people and not had success. I have had a little bit of feedback that perhaps their records are not up to date. So if you could just let me know whether or not, for those of that I emailed today, if you can just get back to me, that would be awesome. I think we can all see with the with what's happened recently with the lockdown now at PA Hospital as a result of the COVID outbreak or potential outbreak, that just how important this training is. So as I said, if anybody hasn't already enrolled, please give me a buzz tomorrow or drop me a line and we can take that through. For those of you who have completed the Zoom webinar, so in terms of structure, there's a 2-hour Zoom webinar, then there's some online questions and information to read and questions to answer as part of the assessment piece. So if I think most people who have enrolled have completed the Zoom session. If you haven't, please contact, I think it's Jamar is your program coordinator. So she'll be able to work with you in terms of booking you into a session if you're not booked in. The last piece of the puzzle in terms of getting through to completion and to get your certificate is to complete the TPR, which is a third-party report, which is an assessment piece. We've been having some logistical difficulties in terms of having enough people available to actually do this assessment. So ARC Training have actually contacted me late this afternoon to say that they've got an online option which we're going to implement. So I'll be sending out details tomorrow for people around that and what they need to do. So for those of you who are at that stage already where all you've got left to do is actually sign off, get the third-party report signed off, I'll have that information to you tomorrow. So basically that's it. It's been a fantastic opportunity that the government's given us to put this through. Does anybody have any questions?
Is there anybody super resistant to doing the training, or is there anything where people are struggling? I hope that the people who've been at the Q&As know we're pretty open to getting feedback around this, but I'd be keen to know if it's just, is it a struggle for people, or you just like, I just don't want to do it, because we're committed to working through anything. If there is resistance to it, happy to work through it. So, Dwayne, are you happy to jump on and talk us through that? So you've just said the setup of the course is really bad. Can you?
Yeah, I find. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yep, all good.
Yeah. So yeah, I've just been finding the actual setup of the course really poor, like on their side, especially with the logging in, actually doing the answers online, because basically as soon as you go off, it doesn't save anything. You've got to submit it, and then you only get 3 chances of submitting it. So if you don't have the time and you only do a couple of questions and things like that, the backwards and forwards. So yeah, I just find the structure of how they've done it not very good.
Dwayne, I'll give them a call in the morning, because my understanding is you should be able to save as you're going and then come back online whenever you.
Yeah, you can save the questions, but you have to submit it. It won't allow you just to go back in and do the questions. Because
Okay.
that's sort of what I asked in my Zoom, like if we were able to do that. And that was one thing he brought up that was quite poor with the setup of the training, that you couldn't go back. So there's been a number of times where, you know, I've gone in and then I've, you know, had other things that I've had to go. And so I'm sort of reluctant to go back in and actually do it. I'll have to do it all by putting it on paper and then actually going in and doing it, if you know what I mean, because
Yeah.
otherwise you lose your times of the 3 times of being able to go in and do it.
I'll give them a call tomorrow, Dwayne, then I might give you another buzz and just work through what's going on so that we can get some help on that. Is that okay?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Right.
Thanks for your feedback, Dwayne. And Kerry, thanks for your feedback too. That you said, I think everyone's just a bit COVID fatigued. And I completely agree with that. And I don't know if we've got time to discuss it tonight whilst getting through all the other agenda items, but I'd be keen to have a chat and get feedback from employees about how we balance the fatigue and the emotional fatigue that you've had through COVID. And, you know, even just this week, we're putting changes into STA again, so there's no visitors. I realise it is a really stressful time, but we want to be able to balance that with giving you the right training so that you're more prepared for work and maybe less fatigued in terms of having to think about things. So I'm wondering if we might set up a bit of another Q&A around that, or a bit of a focus group or something, so that we can get as many employees' feedback as possible, because I absolutely don't want you to be fatigued, either just with general day-to-day stuff or with the implementation of training. But I want to support you with as much training as we can manage. So can I just get a show of maybe hands or on the chat? Just would any employees be keen on just touching base with us in just a bit of a reference group or a survey or something around how best we support you with the fatigue that's been brought about by COVID-19? I kind of rambled there as a question. Would anybody be up for giving me feedback on how we best support you with fatigue over the next while? Cool, thanks, Cassie. Cool. What I'll do is I'm going to drop this on Leanne. If people are interested in giving a bit of feedback from I'll touch on that in a minute, Chrissy. If anybody's up for giving us a bit of feedback, can you send an email to marketing, to Leanne and Jen, just to say that you're interested in participating, a bit of feedback, and that's all you need to do from there, and we'll maybe work out another Q&A or a bit of a focus group to see how best we can support you with energy levels as well. So yeah, just flick your email to Leanne and Jen, and I'll deal with that when I get back from Canberra. So I've just, Chrissy, how about a paid island holiday? Yep, Dwayne's agreeing. I'd love to. If you all get your permanency application in, then we could probably do something about that. So that's a start off, and I would love to be able to do something else. I'm on Margarita duty, not anytime soon. Yeah, I'd love to be able to do that. Bar a holiday on an island, anything that we can do to help you with rest and helping lower your fatigue levels. And your fatigue is also emotional fatigue. It's not just the physical aspects. We know that COVID's been a particularly stressful time and it's not quite gone away yet. So anything we can do in that space. I have got no idea what a coochie muldo is, if that's even how you pronounce it, but all right, let's move on from the...
Irene, just one thing.
Yep.
Alicia just had a question that she had completed the training 3 years ago. If you've completed the training through the course of either having done the training directly or through doing a Cert 3 or 4 or 2 in something where it's been contained, you do not need to complete it. You've already got, I guess, you've got the recognition of prior learning for that. So that saves you having to do it.
Cool, thanks, Alicia. All right, thank you, everybody. So let's move on from that, and I'm going to hand over to the wonderful Sean Walker now, who's going to talk us through where we're at with Brevity. I'm sure you've all met him and he needs no introduction, but welcome, Sean, and thanks for your input.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Do you mind if I just take control and just I'll share my screen? Great, thank you. Might be a second. Okay, since we last spoke, I guess the rollout of Brevity has really moved forward. Just one tick through my screens. So I think we spoke around about mid-January. It was around about the time of the lockdown, and we were just about to go live in Toowoomba. They actually started on the 25th of Jan. We've progressed since then to Brisbane North, which went online on the 22nd of Feb. And just last week, on the 8th of March, we rolled out at Moreton Bay region at Marine Bar. So that actually means that Arafmi's got around about 85 support workers that have downloaded the mobile application, and they're using it to record when they start and finish their service bookings, adding their service notes, and also putting in their activity-based transport for the shifts that they actually are working on. So that's just left us now with Ipswich, which is now the last of the sites that we're looking to roll out to. And preparations now are well underway to have them ready to go live on the 19th of April. And that's going to mean about another 40 support workers and another 95 clients actually coming online and being managed through Brevity as well. So as we've gone through the rollouts, what we've done to support each location is to conduct some training sessions for each site as they're coming online. We've had 9 in total so far, and they've involved the support workers downloading the app and giving them their passwords and their usernames and providing them guidance on what they need to do with Brevity while they're on their shifts. And as part of that training, each support worker has been provided with their own reference materials, so the knowledge isn't left in that training room. And then there's support that's provided for the leaders for each of those sites, so we can help manage the information that they need from the back end as well. And I'm working pretty closely with Kerry at the moment because she went online last week. As we move close to the rollout at Ipswich, we're going to have, I think it's 4 training sessions. And there's also going to be some dedicated training for the client care coordinators and the administration, the rostering cohorts, now that those roles are being finalised, to ensure that they've got the capability to embed the introduction of Brevity. So here's a bit of an update for the timeframe going forward. I think it was Dwayne asked a question earlier on about Ipswich coming on, and I mentioned it was the 19th of April that it is now being rolled out, and there's been some changes, since we last spoke, and this has been done partly to accommodate some changes in circumstances. When we spoke last time, we had that short lockdown in Brisbane, which really, impacted a lot of initiatives moving forward. But it's also to ensure that the changes announced as part of the organisational restructure can be put in place, and there's an opportunity for it to settle. And there's also recognition as well that we've got a bit of a pesky, Easter period in there too, which gets in the way of things. So this has meant that Ipswich is now being, the date's been put to the 19th of April, and work is really underway now to get them ready for their go live date. So working very closely to make sure that all the staff information is correct, and we're working very closely at the moment to make sure that all of the client information is uploaded as correct as well. So I just wanted to put this slide up here and just have a little bit of discussion about what it's actually meant for Arafmi. so far. As we've been going through the Brevity rollouts, we've actually been scheduling, reasonably far in advance. And what we're providing now is a real view of service bookings that are in place for those areas that we're rolling out to from now until the end of the financial year. And this gives support workers a bit of a line of sight to what's actually planned in terms of work for them. But it also allows Arafmi a lot more flexibility to be more proactive with decision making around scheduling of shifts as well. There's also been some gains in terms of administration times, with the billing now being generated out of Brevity. The time that is taken at the end of each billing cycle to collate, pull all the information together and send it through to the finance team for billing has really been cut down. And we've also seen some real efficiency gains and benefits in the billing process as well, where we're now actually able to download a file directly from Brevity and send it off to the NDIS and have real quick payments coming back from them within 48 hours. And I know Karcher was quite excited about that last week. I'm just about finished, but there's a few people I really wanted to call out and thank publicly, who've really helped, and are continuing to help make this work. Up in Toowoomba, Libby and Haley have been amazing, and they've really, taken the bit between the teeth. At Brisbane North, Jade, Jack and Deb have really shown some great leadership to make it a success there. At Moreton Bay, Amanda, before she defected to support coordination, worked really closely to make sure that they were ready, and Kerry continues to do so there. And in Ipswich, where I'm focusing on at the moment, Kelly and particularly Mel and Margaret are really working hard with me at the moment to make sure that they're ready for the 19th. But I also wanted to call out as well on the support coordination side, Lauren, Mark and Karen, because they're really helping to see if Brevity's fit for purpose for the support coordination space as well. And hopefully we've got a bit more to talk about regarding that next time we get together. And then finally, I just wanted to say, before I open up for any questions, that in conversations I had over previous months, everybody said that Brevity's coming, or it's been a long time coming. Well, I think we can finally say that it's here now, and it's we're starting to get some real traction with the rollout, but we're starting to also see some benefits from its implementation. So that's pretty much all I wanted to sort of update you guys on. But if you've got any questions, please go ahead and ask, or if you want to do that offline, just drop me a line.
So Sean, we've got two questions here that I'll read out for you. So yeah. Does this cancel out paperwork?
Some paperwork, yes. So one of the real benefits that we've seen is that support workers don't actually have to complete physical notes at the end of their shift anymore. So there's been a real efficiency there and a real time saving, and it's actually been some technology advances there where you can actually do it voice to text as well, which I know a lot of support workers are actually utilising at the moment. But on the flip side, there are some paper processes that we're continuing to follow. We still have to submit our timesheets. We still have to keep our mileage logs. Down the track, that may change, but at the moment, those are still required. But those pesky notes that have to be completed and disappeared under the seat of the car or flew out when the window was open, they're a thing of the past.
Which definitely has never happened.
Oh, of course not.
And thanks, Sean, and we are moving to what we hope will be a paperless or system as best we can, but it is a work in progress. I'll just go through the other questions. When will the training be in Ipswich, Sean?
The date hasn't been set yet, but it will be probably in that week before the 19th, so the week beginning the 12th. I'm waiting for Kelly to come back from her holiday so we can re-coordinate that.
Cool. And will short-term accommodation and cell houses be able to use Brevity?
STA is, and Gary and I are working really, really closely, and actually I want to give a call out to him in a second as well, to try and finalise getting that up and running in Brevity. We were hoping we were close this morning, and we looked at each other a bit disappointed about lunchtime, but we're coming back to fight that battle again in the next day or so. So hopefully very shortly. I do really want to give him a call out as well. Gary fields random questions from me at random times, and he's been very supportive in his responses.
Cool, thank you, Sean. Does anyone else have any final questions for Sean before we move on to our last area? Okay, well, I'll just say a big thanks, Sean. And it's been a tough space getting to where we are now, and I echo the sentiments that we've been talking about Brevity for quite some time. But I think having you on board really got that traction and helped the whole organisation understand about project implementation a bit more and bringing people along. So even outside of the implementation of Brevity, you've brought a lot to the organisation in terms of how we manage things, making sure we're engaging people properly, that we actually have planned outcomes for things. So we're a much richer organisation for having you on board, and I'm glad you're with us for a few months more.
Thanks, Irene. I'm starting to blush. So.
Oh, bless. Just don't cry, it's embarrassing. So
I won't cry.
No, I'd never do that. So, cool. Okay, thanks, Sean. And thanks everybody for your support with the implementation of Brevity. I know for some people it has been a bit scary or a bit fatiguing that we've been talking about it for a while, but I really appreciate you all embracing it, and I think it'll ultimately make your life better. And my view is that when you're doing your notes and doing them with clients and engaging them in what the notes look like and talking them through what a shift is like is absolutely the key to what we're doing. It helps people with their recovery. It helps them understand what's happened in the shift. It solidifies everything that we do together rather than it being isolated. So I'm looking forward to seeing the results of that. Okay, we've got a few more minutes left before the end of our session, so I'm going to hand you over to Karen to talk a little bit now about our new EAP provider.
Thanks, Irene. So some of you may have noticed that there's some new posters up around for our EAP provider. So we've moved from APMHA across to an organisation called Amavita. So we'd had a little bit of feedback that perhaps we weren't getting the service or the support that we really needed as an organisation. So we've been looking around to see who we could get, who would best suit our needs, and we've gone with Amavita. So Amavita, their approach is that rather than calling it an EAP, even though that's what it is, they call it WES or WESS, which is Workplace Employee Support Service. It operates very similarly to an EAP. So if you need some support, whether it's around self-care or just something that you need to talk to them about, not necessarily work-related, you can give them a call. They'll accept. You can either phone, SMS, email to make an appointment, and they will do face-to-face, telephone, Skype, FaceTime, whatever kind of session that you actually want to organise. They're available 24/7, 365 days of the year. You'll speak to somebody who'll basically do, I guess, what you call a triage, assess what your needs are, and then they'll organise somebody to give you a call to set up a time to meet, and so you can have a chat. It is completely confidential. We do get information on usage, but we do not get information as to who is using what. We get general information around themes, so that if we notice something, in a particular team not a team, but like in a region that kind of is concerning, we can then make some arrangements to do, whether it's further training or just having conversations with the team in general. So we certainly don't know who uses it nor what the conversations specifically are about. You have up to 3 sessions in a year. If somebody is needing, it is short-term, meant for short-term support, but if somebody is needing additional sessions, then they contact us for approval to get that done. We will be organising Elise Leonard, who heads up the Amavita EAP team. We'll be organising some information sessions with her so that people can ask more questions, because it's quite a lot that of support that they can provide.
Well, thanks, Karen. And just to extend that, employee supports are open to family members as well. So we know that you don't come to us in isolation of the rest of your life. And absolutely any employee assistance includes family members. And again, we don't get to hear about that. We just get we pay the bills for it and get the stats, but it can include extended family members as well. So please keep that in mind if there's something that you're either struggling with or you want some proactive supports. And just one other thing to add that's not quite part of that, if you are needing something short term, but it's a bit more sensitive, or you need a specific type of counselling or support, I feel really comfortable that Amavita you can ask for that and they'll be able to provide it for you. But if there's something outside the scope of generic and that needs a little bit more exploration or a little bit more of a cost attached to it for those sessions, you can touch base with Karen or myself and we'll try and support you to do that. And again, I'm comfortable that Amavita can provide all of that, but if there is something where you're just not sure about, let us know and we'll try and find it for you. We absolutely don't want you to be without supports for fear of thinking that it's not the right thing that we do. Ask us the question and we'll make it happen if we can. But yeah, just to remind you that it's family as well as yourselves that can access it. Sorry, Karen.
You're right, it's all good, thanks.
Sure. Any questions on the employee assist, or what's it called? Workplace employee support service.
WES.
WES. No questions on that. Cool. So we will be sending out more information. That is, the posters are already out. The information will be there. I've used Amavita for supervision and for employee assist myself. I engaged in it following the passing of one of our staff in January, and I found them incredibly useful and very supportive, and I'm really glad that I did access them. And again, I'd encourage you all to do the same, even if you're thinking about it or you're not sure, then it's better to touch base than not. So we're kind of at time, but what I'd like to do is open it up to the floor. Does anybody have any other questions that we can answer quickly, or any themes that you want us to cover in the next Q&A? I'm happy for you to either take the chat on the side or just put your hands up and ask. Oh, you're a quiet bunch tonight. Okay, well, if nobody does have anything, I think we should do our standard and very formal. If anybody's got any pets that they want to show us before we say goodnight, or see, Alicia, you've got your kid there. Any children that want to jump in on the Zoom, it would be lovely to just put your cameras on for the last bit. And happy if you share. Karen's got her bunny ears on. Oh, Dwayne, are those Frenchies? Oh, they're gorgeous.
Yeah.
You know, we have a bring your dog into work policy that I'm fully supportive of. They're beautiful. Okay, we've got Cassie's family. Hi, Cassie's family. Nice to meet you. And Kurt, you've got a dog there. What's your dog's name?
His name's Damon.
Damon. It's cute. That's gorgeous. Anybody else? Oh, we've got...
It's blue stuffy.
Yeah, and we've got another one up the top there, Kurt. If you can see Laura. Laura's got a blue staffy as well, Gus. Cool. Anybody else want to? And we've got Christy, Chris's kid there. We've got, hey, Chris's kid, and Julian's family. Hey, Julian. And we've got Karen's family. Hello, Karen's family. Let's see if we've got anybody else. Oh, hey, Kurt's family as well as the dog. Oh, hey, Alicia's family. Hello.
There's only one of them here.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate it. And I haven't seen you with your families. I do really appreciate the time you give up to join us for these sessions. I hope they're really useful. I'll end this with a question from Kerry. What about bring your snakes into work? I might leave that one up to not me to, because I find them a little bit, but if you bring it in a cage, I'm sure probably people would be okay. Gary's saying a hard no. we don't have a lot of snakes in Scotland, so it's a bit of a scary thing for us. So, but anyway, thank you everybody. I really appreciate the time that you've taken, and thanks for everything that you do for Arafmi. I do think we're doing a fantastic job. We are impacting positively in lots of people's lives, and I appreciate your continued effort to do that. And we'll see you at the next Q&A.